This is the worst slot on a conference, the last point just before the planes take off. But I must say, have been a very interesting and rewarding, good conference, since there are so many people left in the room. Or is the shuttle stuck somewhere, so you can't leave? But I think I go for the first, that it has been a very good conference. It has been a very fruitful debate and discussion, and it has been a lot of flesh and blood. What can we use? Why can we use it? How can we make a difference? Why should we do this and that, instead of discussion, theories up and back and forth? So now we are coming to the conclusion why EUPATI is important. And I think many may think that we should know that by now, but we would like to add something to it, and we would like to add some other stakeholders' view to it, why EUPATI is important, or the Patient Academy, which I prefer to call it, because that is much more what it is. So therefore, we have this last session, the panel, and which I'm co-chairing with my dear friend Kay Warner. And she will introduce the speakers. So I think we go from there, and then I will come back before you leave. So glad to see so many in the room. Okay.
Thank you, Anders. So I'm going to ask the panellists to introduce themselves, their name, their role, and their organisation. And then I'm going to ask 2 questions. First question, then a Q&A for the audience to respond, and then second question, and again Q&A. So first of all to Roisin.
Sure. Thanks very much. And thanks very much to EUPATI for inviting me here. I'm Roisin Adams. I'm a pharmacist by training, but I work in the National Centre for Pharmacoeconomics in Dublin, and we assess all medicines for the payer or the government in Ireland. I lead the assessment team there.
Okay. My name's Simon Dennegree, and I have 2 roles in the United Kingdom. I'm the chair of Involve, which is the National Advisory Group for the promotion of public involvement in research, health research, public health research and social care research. And I'm also the National Institute for Health Research, National Director for Patients and the Public in Research, working to improve the opportunities for people to become involved in research through the National Health Service.
Hello, and my name is Cordula Landgraf. I work for Swissmedic, the Swiss Agency for Therapeutic Products. I'm responsible for the networking at the agency, so that means I'm coordinating national and international collaboration. I'm also representing Swissmedic at the EUPATI Regulatory Advisory Panel, and I'm supporting the national liaison team in Switzerland.
Good afternoon. My name is Berka Lehmann from the Federal Institute for Drugs and Medical Devices in Germany, Bonn. That is the licensing body for medicinal product in Germany. And I'm also, on the one hand side, these representatives from the BfArM. On the other side, I'm member of the Pediatric Committee at the level of the EMA, and therefore also interested in the development of medicinal product for pediatrics. My position is head of EU and international affairs, something like Cordula has already described.
Thank you, panellists. So before we go into the Q&A, what I'd like to do is ask each of you to use 2 minutes of time just to give an impulse statement about why you think EUPATI is important.
Okay.
Easy done.
Easily done, yeah. So from a health technology, and I will speak from a health technology perspective, one of the key challenges that was coming up time and time again, patients, they don't know anything about this complicated technology assessment, and I think what's really nice is that EUPATI have responded to that, and I would say from my experience in Ireland, EUPATI also responded to that, and they said, fine, let's learn. So what we have now, which I think is brilliant, is that we have a little army, we will have a little army of 100 people, of really well-trained individuals who are informed and who have a really broad knowledge of, I suppose, healthcare, even outside of maybe the disease that they're representing. That's a really powerful tool, and that's really useful to us. So I think from that alone, EUPATI have helped achieve that, and then we move on from there. So, yeah.
Thank you. Simon?
Okay, thank you. So My vision for the future is that the more people involved in research, the healthier all our nations will be. So we have a long way to travel to get to that point. And my view would be that EUPATI is a very good start at a potentially very important initiative. So EUPATI's been in my field of vision for some time, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily blocked my way as someone who leads on public involvement in any one of the nations, and it maybe has to do that. But having listened to the debates over the last day, I think it's been very interesting because I think there are three unique selling points to EUPATI, and ones that I think it needs to crystallise in the future. The first is that tackling of the learning and development agenda and thinking through the ways that we support patients and the public appropriately. The second is in working across nations. Internationalisation is going to be really, really important in the development of public involvement over the next 10, 15 years. And the third one is actually the linkage with industry. That's where we really, really need to build bridges. I absolutely accept and understand some of the particular difficulties that presents for some nations, but we can't have a better approach to research and producing medicines by standing on opposite sides of the river and pointing fingers at one another. We have to build bridges, and I think EUPATI has shown that that can be done. Maybe at a small level, but it's a model that we can develop and adapt across our European countries.
Very good, thank you. Cordula?
Yeah, so from a regulatory agency point of view, we are very much looking forward to the toolbox EUPATI is developing and hopefully providing very soon, because we have established a working group with patient and consumers at Swissmedic. It's a little bit following the EU model, but on a national level, and we have adopted to our resource situation in Switzerland, so it's not as big as at the EMA. But we want to involve patients, and when we want to involve them, they need to know what the whole process is about research and development of medicinal products, and then also the registration process. So this is why we have also committed and engaged ourselves in the EUPATI project, because we hope then to work with those expert patients or patient advocates in the future.
Thank you, Berg.
I think EUPATI is a brilliant project to have more patients involved in all the different steps in the development of a medicinal product. It starts from the purely development of the product by itself, the non-clinical part and the clinical part. And I hope that all the students and the participants of EUPATI are the multiplicator to all the other patients in all the other European member states, because I think this is the core business to transpose the idea of EUPATI to all of the other member states. Thank you.
Thank you. So the first question is, what steps will you need to take in your country to make patient involvement a reality? Roisin?
Okay, so I was thinking about this. So we've been moving on this as much as we can, and what struck me is that within the reimbursement processes, which were developed a little while back now, and probably before EUPATI has really taken off, and what we're trying to do, I suppose, is fit patients into a process that maybe is not maybe patient-centric. So there was a difficulty there, and it struck me that I was recently involved in some stakeholder guidelines that were developed in Ireland, and while it was a really useful and formal acknowledgement that you should be involving all stakeholders, including patient and public, it struck me that there needs to be a broader acknowledgement of almost assessing what are the core values that patients want included in every healthcare decision. Because always the question is, how do we measure this impact? How do we measure the outcome, if you like, of patient involvement? And I thought that if you could establish the core values, that then would be embedded within research, embedded within decision-making, within reimbursement decisions, and then you can go back and look and say, well, have all these decisions that have been made about us in healthcare, have they reflected our core values that we want them to reflect? And it struck me when we were talking about social media that you could actually start that at a European level. So you could take the core values at a European level and then drill down into a country level. So then you're looking at taking the overall European core values and then taking those and looking at maybe focus groups and establishing a list of core values that you want, and then taking that to policymakers to ensure that that's reflected in everything we do in relation to healthcare. That was one of the pieces that I think needs to be done, so almost a top-down. The second piece, and something that we've come across, so we've worked with EUPATI now for, gosh, about, yeah, since probably 22 years, 10 years maybe. And it's in Ireland, a lot of people know each other. So we speak we meet with each other, we inform, we communicate, maybe on an informal level, but it's very useful. And what we've come, and I come to a number of different meetings with patients, and patients always come up to me and want to say, well, I'm thinking about gathering information, I'm thinking about, so essentially it's patients initiating research. They want to do it themselves. So yes, we're looking at research at a pharma level, we're looking at getting involved, but what I found really exciting is this is patients wanting to do it themselves. And it struck me that patients should be reported or should be supported in this, and how we do that. So this idea of the patient representative leaders, that if you could have a research leader who could then maybe try and interact with some of the policy level research going on, but also supporting patients to do their own research. And it's not just registries, so we all think of registries, it's not just that. There's other aspects as well that can be useful to do. So even those two elements, which I would see at the very top and also coming in lower down, and even focusing on those two.
Very good. Simon, your response?
Thank you. Well, I will build on a lot of that. Leadership is very important, but it's quite a heavily loaded term, as is expert, and I might come back to that. But I think the first thing I would say is that we're quite fortunate in the UK. We've had a government-funded organisation to promote and advance Involve, which I chair for 10 years now. We've got quite an established approach to public involvement across the National Institute, which Sue Pavitt did a very good sales job on before, as part of the feedback from the workshops. But we still have a huge amount to learn and still a huge amount to do. And I suppose sometimes I think about public involvement in sport terms, not because I'm a big sport fanatic, but just sometimes it's helpful to have a metaphor. And sometimes I feel as though in public involvement we're still sort of playing boule or croquet, small scale, a few people playing it, even fewer sometimes watching it. And what I really want public involvement to be is the sort of sport that we play, every day in our parks, young and old, that we go to stadiums and look at and take part in. That's where we need to get to. And how do we do that? Well, first of all, we need to make research much more visible as part of a patient's care pathway, whatever their disease, whatever their condition. And then secondly, as part of that, we need to make sure and help them see the opportunities that they can, how they can contribute to research and to their own healthcare and to others' healthcare now and in the future by being part of that endeavour, also as part of their care pathway. And we have good models for that already in the United Kingdom in specific conditions, cancer, stroke, Alzheimer's. I think we are beginning to develop our learning very, very much there. It's quite timely that I perhaps should be speaking at this conference because we've just been through a strategic review of public involvement in NIHR, and that we published our report just before silence fell across government before the general election. So immediately after the general election is over and we have a government, whatever government that will be, we'll expect a response from the Chief Medical Officer on that report and how they intend to help us take that forward. And I won't go through all the things in that, but I think two things would stand out for me, really. Is one, it often comes back again and again and again to good, clear information and communication at all levels. Second, it also is about really very good support for the patient to be able to be at the table and to speak and to contribute with confidence. And so this is where I would challenge EUPATI's thinking quite strongly, is that I'm all in favour of building expertise, but I want to spread the word and spread the love and enable people to contribute at all different levels. I don't want a very specialised group of people out there. I want many people to be able to contribute. And the third thing is, I think that we need to think and move our thinking on from public involvement as being about enabling individuals to contribute to research, to actually enabling communities and neighbourhoods to contribute. In our country, of course, there's a huge move to think about health provision in terms of localities and regions, and enabling us to reach out to hard-to-reach groups and others. We are not going to do that by enabling highly specialised individuals beyond committees. We're going to do that by different ways and methods, social media, those sorts of things. So I applaud what you have done, but I would also say there's a big challenge there about how you move on from the current model and spread it, increase it, make it attractive to others. And that's going to be hugely exciting and important to me and to others in the UK.
Thank you. Cordula?
Well, in my opinion, the most important steps that need to be taken in Switzerland at the moment are still raising awareness of EUPATI, making EUPATI known in Switzerland. For this, the National Liaison Team has organized already 2 workshops. We have done one in the German-speaking part of Switzerland and one in the French-speaking part of Switzerland. Yeah, you always have to consider actually both language groups. Perfect would have been to also do something in the Italian part, but we also involve the Italian-speaking Swiss people. Right now, the National Liaison Team is working on a concept paper. With this concept paper, we want to establish a clear vision of what we want to do with the the EUPATI national platform. We try to find a catchy slogan for this vision, something short and simple, but as journalists would say, something sexy. We are not there yet, but we are working on it. With this concept paper, we want to go out to the public, to the general public, to raise awareness, to try to find committed people who want to join the platform, and also use the concept paper to get funding, because this is obviously something we need to address, and we hope that with a clear concept, a clear vision, and clear strategic goals, we can achieve that.
Thank you, Sister.
Yes, thank you. We're already involving patients in 2 of our national committees, and the Committee for Medicinal Product for Children and Adolescents, and also in the Committee for Off-Label Use. Besides these involvement of patients in these legal committees in Germany, we also want to improve the communication with the patient organization. Therefore, we initiated a first contact to 4 of our patient organizations, which are also contributing to the health technology bodies. And we want to use this platform for a first step to have more transparency and more communication with patients. We don't know in which way this will work and in which way the patients want us, that they want to contribute to our ideas. We will see in the future how it will work, because we have the situation that on the one hand side, especially for the licensing situation, that means for granting a medicinal product, a marketing authorization, we already have the established patient organization groups at the level of the European Medicines Agencies, and in principle we want not to duplicate the thing, but we want to find a way to have a bridge between these national organizations at, for example, in Germany, and the European level of these EMA-contributed patient organizations. This is the one side. The other side is the cooperation with EUPATI. We have to think about how we can perhaps match the 2 objectives from the point of a federal institute, and but I'm looking forward that we will find a possibility to come together to have a good situation to contribute to the transparency between the patient groups in Germany and to improve the situation for the patient in Germany. Thank you.
Okay. I must say I'm impressed of your comments and answer, especially who you're representing. So you're really sure what you know what you have said and promised? Because we heard about the wording for what's EUPATI is an avalanche. The avalanche is coming. In Switzerland, you're used to that, so maybe you know what you're talking about. And I would love to see the sexy catching word from Switzerland. That is... that's great. That's great. It gives me an interesting picture in my head. It's not shown on the screen, so it will take some more years before the IT people will fix that. We said we open up Q&A from you who are sitting here, not so you don't fall asleep. Is there any question regarding this question, not other questions, regarding this question to some of these four wonderful people? Do you have any question for that? You're the first. The microphone is behind you. Please say who you are, shoe number, and so forth.
My name is Pedro Montellano, and I'm one of the trainees of the EUPATI training.
Closer to the mic.
Maybe now I realize that it's not a question about this, it's related to this question. Because you asked what would be, what do you think that you have to do to convince the patients? And I think that for all that everybody has already seen about the motivation of the patient, all the trainees, patients are motivated. They never were present because they never were invited, let me say like this. What I'm much more concerned, it's about the professional. Are they convinced? Because all this concept of EUPATI is related to it's a better research with the presence of patients. And patients, I believe they have the dignified conditions because lots of things have to be changed. To be in, they will say yes, because it's in their interest. But are the professionals, it would be that's the question, what has to be done for the professionals to adhere to this process?
Okay. How to convince the patients?
I thought it was how to convince the professionals.
Whatever. If you want to be the picky, okay. How to convince the professional then?
I can start. So I'm convinced. So we recently ran a workshop, and we don't run typical HTA workshops. We run workshops about, I suppose, how to make decisions in healthcare. And it was really interesting. We made up lots of drugs. We gave them lots of benefits. We gave them lots of problems. We gave it to so many people. The decision, and we asked for patients, so as a group, to decide what do you think we should do. And the decisions that every one of those patient representatives or patients made was spot on, probably more sensible maybe than some of the decision makers' decisions that are made in Ireland. I don't need to be convinced. People make sensible decisions. So I think their involvement is integral to it. So yeah, as a professional, I'm convinced, and I think most people in our organisation are convinced. I can't speak for the pair because we only recommend, but yeah.
Okay.
I think there are professional boundaries, and they're persistent and quite difficult to shift. But I think there are some signs that they are shifting. I think for three reasons really. One, because they're having to shift, because I think they recognise, along with people there who manage the system with them, that actually you're not going to answer the health challenges that we currently face without greater participation and involvement of patients, not just in their own healthcare, but in designing solutions. So I think there's a recognition it has to be done. You know, the situation that we're in is forcing that. I think things that I've seen work well are, of course, the classic carrot and stick, motivation and a little bit of the other. And the way we've done that in the UK, for instance, is particularly for our senior research leaders within NIHR, making public involvement one of those things that they have to convince a panel that they are committed to and will fulfill before they're even appointed. And then I think where I have great optimism is in terms of our young professionals and young trainees. In fact, some of the most exciting and invigorating events that I've been to are with our trainees within NIH, our research trainees, but also those who are just thinking about a research career, haven't even got off on the first rung of the ladder. And the enthusiasm there, but also the greater open-mindedness, actually that my patients are my partners, is so strong. And I think we really need to work with that generation that's coming up, because they're going to be our allies of the future.
That's a catchy slogan. The patient is my partner. Please.
Well, in Swissmedic, we have quite some scientific personnel, healthcare professionals, clinical reviewers, preclinical ones, and those who look at the quality. From experience, I can say that it is not always easy to convince them that there are other stakeholders who have a say. But we have now been running this working group with patients and consumers just for nearly a year, and it's a pilot. But after 4 meetings we have had now, I can already say that the feedback I get from my colleagues, from the scientific experts within Swissmedic, is that they bring in a lot of value and that they ask us questions we would never have asked ourselves, maybe because we didn't think of that. And so I think change can just happen, or the best thing that change happens is by example and on a case by case. It needs time, and when you are confronted with change, I think human beings always try to act a little bit pushing back first, but then when they see the advantage, the benefit, they are very willing to change. But it needs time. It will not go from one day to the other.
That's true.
I think I can go in the same direction, saying that what experience we gained, for example, for giving scientific advice to companies and also to researchers, that during the time and over the time, we have seen more and more the involvement of patients in the scientific advice procedures. And I have the impression that the researchers which are taking part in this scientific advice are really, let's say, really good in accepting the quality comments coming from the patients, especially when we are discussing the development of medicinal product in rare diseases.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think the feeling is that EUPATI should bring all these good examples, good thinking. This is really flesh and bone, and into this, and bring it into the toolbox, Jan. One more question, please. You've been talking before, so we take the man here. Okay. But now you have a chance, so take it or not. That's a microphone.
I was a little confused.
Who are you?
Sorry, Russell Wheeler from the UK, also from the EUPATI course. I was a little confused by actually the first comment, but even the latest response by Simon to the last question, because it seemed to me almost that there was a suggestion that the EUPATI project is training people that aren't needed. We need something else. And I've heard a lot of discussion about the desirability, especially in regulatory areas, of the attraction of the naive patient, which to me seems to be a contradiction in terms. If the patient is naive, they're not involved. If they're involved, they're not naive. But we'll leave that aside. I'd be interested to know what the panel think about the naive patient, because it seems to me that what EUPATI is trying to do is remove the naive patient, which is something I applaud personally. And then finally, I'd like to suggest at some stage, if we get the time, I had a really good story last evening by one of my colleagues on the course, Demetrios, and I'd invite him to, at some stage, stand up and tell everybody his story, because I think it's very interesting and illustrative of the problems. I mean, Simon, I think you almost gave the impression all is well in the UK. And it's not well. Patient involvement is a tiny, tiny fraction of what it needs to be. Thank you.
Can you narrow that down to one question, what you just said? Because
Okay,
I don't share the view that we need to address how to make with a naive patient. Patients are not naive, so narrow it down to one question.
Well,
Simon,
actually,
please.
my one question would be the reaction of the naive patient. I heard this many times from people within EMA, from other authorities, that we want a naive patient. We don't want a professional patient representative. We want the naive patient. To me, actually, that's laziness. They want the patient that does as they're told and doesn't ask difficult questions. So I'm sorry, that's the question I asked.
I agree, but I never heard that they want to have naive patients, because Guido Rassi, if he would said that, then I would smack him. In Italian, please.
So first, I wasn't trying to pretend that things were all lovely and roses in the UK. But I am very proud of what the UK has done in public involvement, and I think we've gone further than any other country in supporting it as a government. So I don't think that's something to be, overlooked. But I accept there are lots of problems and there are lots of things that we still have to do. But I stand by what I said. I think that we unnecessarily get ourselves into all sorts of tangles and get ourselves caught on all sorts of barbed wire when we talk about professionalised patients, naive patients, this patient, that patient. The fact is that we need all sorts of patients to be involved. What probably people are not very good at are considering the sorts of jobs, roles, things that they need done to help them do their work, and then think through with patients how they can contribute, where they can contribute, and what skills or what support they need to develop the skills to do that. So I think I'm really very reluctant to sort of label patients as one thing or another. What it seems to betray for me is a lack of dialogue about value and need, and a lack of dialogue between both those who are running a system or doctors and the patients they want to work with. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, as I say, I applaud what EUPATI's done in building up a strong cadre of people who are trained, like yourself. I think it's great. But if you're thinking about the future and sustainability, I think it's about how does EUPATI support you and others to spread the word and spread the knowledge, to make its tools and toolkits accessible to others, so that others can benefit from it, because I think that's the only way forward. We can't keep it within a small group of people. That's what I'm trying to say. However valuable they might be, we need to spread that value much wider. And you can have a key role in doing that if you are supported well to do it.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Next question, please.
Thank you, Simon. So the next question is, what could EUPATI do to support you in reaching these goals in your country, to the goal of patient involvement? Roisin?
Okay, I think I kind of answered a little bit of this first time around, but I think the concept of core values is, it's about mobilizing, I guess, and organizing some kind of pan-European, if you like, project that would look at core values and then drilling down into each of the different countries, because we do have different values, as we know. We're currently doing a project, and it's very much around preferences, and this is probably more closely related to health technology assessment at the moment, but it needs to be broader than that. It needs to be a lot more inclusive of all values. And I think the UK actually do this probably quite well through citizens' jury and different aspects. But how EUPATI, I guess, supporting people in, or supporting representatives in each of the countries and how you might do that. And there are different aspects like focus groups or citizens' jury style. So that's one of the aspects. I mean, the second point I was making about patient-led research, I think you do need to, I suppose, have the research, maybe patient leaders in the research domain, so that at least if patients do want to get involved or do want to collect data, what's the right data to collect, how should we collect it, practical information like that, and making people aware of what to do. How do you practically do it? Also putting them in touch with the likes of maybe academic organisations that could support them. Yep, that's.
Simon?
So I sort of go back to what I said at the beginning, 3 things. First of all, the knowledge and the toolkits, your products, get them out there. Get them out there so people can use them and adopt them. And that's got to be helpful to your party in ensuring its longevity and its sustainability going forward. So if we want to convince others to support what we're doing, they need to see the product. So get it out as soon as possible. And, there's going to be a real thirst for that in the UK as something people can use. I think the second is to help us in the UK build links with other countries. I do think that sometimes we think in the UK that we've done it, we know it, we can't be learning anything else. Of course we can, and we can do that by building better links with other countries. And just in the few conversations I had last night, I learned huge amounts about what's going on, and it's really interesting things going forward. And I think thirdly is that building bridges with industry. I'm frankly a little bit tired of beating up industry. The debate for me, I want the debate to move on to somewhere different, much more constructive and positive. I think that's got to be. We all know industry's vices, past and present. We all know the things that have happened, but we need to get this to a better place for the sake of patients and families. So I think EUPATI can help us build those bridges.
Thank you.
I would like to distinguish between immediate term support and then support in the long term, in the long run. So immediately, I think EUPATI should facilitate really the exchange of information and the exchange of expertise between the national liaison teams. So to help build the network and that national teams that are just about to establish the platform get in contact with those who are already, who have finished or who have established the platform, that there is a flow of information and exchange of expertise. That is what I see as an immediate need for support. I also see a support regarding media inquiries, and here I would like to see EUPATI as a kind of coordinator for media inquiries that we might get at national level, because in my opinion, it is important that EUPATI speaks with one voice and that we have somewhere where we could address these inquiries, these questions that come from media. They might be critical, and that we then go out to the media with a consistent answer. And not doing something just on a national level. And in the long run, I would like to, I would hoping for a very smooth transition after the official ending, after 2017, so that there is not an abrupt ending and nobody knows, what is next. Maybe that the stuff from EUPATI, those faces that are now well known, I look in your direction, Jan and Ingrid, that those people may still are around somehow, and that there might, in a transition period, that we still could report to them, or that they are still there to support us. That's for the long run. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you got a catchy word there, one voice.
Very good.
I take note.
Berke?
And as we are not in the position in Germany to be so advanced like the Swiss, I really like to see that the idea and the concept of EUPATI is really disseminated and distributed to all of the European member states, especially also in Germany, to catch up with the idea, to educate patients that they are speaking with the same language or near the same language in the process of the development of a medicinal product. Might it be in clinical trials or even afterwards, for example, in the situation for labeling of a medicinal product. I think that's very important to have these instruments. What the intention idea of EUPATI is to have it in all of our member states. For the moment, we need to set up a national platform in Germany, though therefore I cannot say many words in which way we want to work on the future. I hope we will have a national platform perhaps next year. Yes, it's also from my side. And I think we should try to make this system as sustainable as possible, even if it's in an academy or something like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions?
So, hello, my name is Irmi Gallmeier. I'm from Hoffmann La Roche in Basel at the headquarters. And I have one question. First of all, to see all that people and get the spirit, especially of the trainees of the first course, as being a member of EUPATI since 2012, it's amazing to see that it gets physical now, yeah? And wonderful spirit, and congratulations to all the trainees to do that very exhausting course, and I'm very much looking forward to have all these wonderful people there. And this guides me to my question, because as we at EUPATI are training now all the people on the level 1 course with the online training as well as with a toolbox, we then will have these wonderful, highly skilled patient representatives that of course are pretty keen to be involved wherever. And what we as an industry are currently facing is that if we want to involve patient representatives into our advisory boards for our clinical trials and so on, these patient representatives then have problems to be members of boards, for example, in the EMA. So as for you sitting there, do you have any ideas or any initiatives that those people that are in advisory boards in the pharmaceutical industry can also participate in advisory boards or whatever boards in the authorities, or do we still stick to society level like we have it, for example, in Germany, which I know very well as a German, that people that are involved in the GBA are people that are not able to participate in any activity of the industry. Thank you.
Well, well.
This is about conflicts.
Yeah, conflict of interest, yeah.
I think for the moment I don't have a solution for this issue. The declaration of interest is a very important tool for the European medicines agencies when they are developing the guidelines or giving scientific advice. So for the moment, the only option would be to have more patients being trained in these EUPATI framework, so that not everything is concentrated on 1 or 2 patients, but that there is the possibility to choose from the well-educated, well-trained patients, 1 or 2 from industry, 1 or 2 from the EMA for the, so that there is no conflict of interest. But I don't know how long it will take to have these broad number of trainees and educated people, patients.
I don't know. I'll step outside my role in public involvement for a moment and step into a role that I might take as a chair of a committee. And I don't know whether I'm quite interpreting your question correctly. But I suppose the things that would go through my mind, and as a secretariat supporting the committee, one is the balance on the committee right? So do I have the well-versed expert, but I also do I have the person who's got perhaps the experience as a patient necessary, but may not be someone who's been with us, working with us for many years. And the second thing is it's not so much that there is a conflict, because there's conflicts all the time. You know, lots of our scientific experts have huge amounts of conflicts. The important thing is that they're declared, they're known, and that they can be managed both outside the committee room in terms of reporting publicly, but also in the committee room in terms of how you manage that part of the meeting.
And I also think we have had the same problem or a similar problem with healthcare professionals, because there are diseases that are very rare and you only have 1 or 2 experts in Switzerland. If you want to have them as advisors, it is simply not possible to exclude them or to exclude them if they have consulted with industry. So I think, in my opinion, the best way is to have a clever, smart declaration of interest and then somehow try to solve the problem. But otherwise, yeah, I think it will be very, very difficult to find someone for rare conditions, for rare diseases.
Okay. Any more questions? Hello. Hello.
Ingrid Klingmann, EFGCP and EUPATI. I have a completely different topic. In EUPATI, our objective is to educate people about the medicines development process, but not only to develop experts that sit in expert committees, but also to raise more awareness in the population, to teach the population in broader terms, patients at different occasions about the principles of the medicines development process. So we have both roles, and we hope that some of our students will also take up that role. Is that of any interest to you? Do you think that this will make your work in your committees, in your organizations over time easier, more professional, whatever, if there is hopefully at some stage a broader awareness in the population about the medicines development process?
Isn't that what you said, Simon?
Yeah, so absolutely. I think having your trained experts is going to be hugely valuable to me and to others. And you know, there are lots of other similar sorts of approaches, maybe not as sophisticated and as well put together, you know, which are around research champions or research ambassadors. I suppose my two words of caution would be, it's one thing to do that within the training room. It's another thing to do that in the outside world. So you need to support people very well, because it can be quite a daunting thing. And we've just had this in dementia with a new website we've set up with to enable people to register for research. That you need to support people really well. I think also you need to give them a defined area within which they're working. So where I've seen it work best is we, for instance, have a few patient research ambassadors who work within a hospital. So there, the boundaries are very clear. You are there to promote, make research more visible within a hospital. You're not there to promote it across the whole nation. And then the task becomes more manageable and more specific, and with support can be actually one that could be achieved. So I absolutely think you're right. It's got to be part of what happens in the future. But I think people need some help to make it feel real for them, and that's something they can actually do.
Okay. Is your intellect vibrating and you feel encouraged and empowered and happy and or? Are you okay? Hello. Yeah. Do we have, there is a risk/chance that we're going to end up earlier today. So do we have any more questions? Yeah, that's a volunteer who don't want to go home. Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Who are you?
I'm Claire, and I'm from the Rheumatoid Arthritis Society in the UK. Just really a comment on all that I've heard here today. This is why I was a EUPATI virgin before today. So it's nice to meet so many people. But one thing, just trying to put it in perspective, we do need the trained expert, excuse me, patients to be involved at the high level. But there's so many demands on patients to be involved in so many different levels. So the person reading a huge document about a trial protocol will have to have that investment in their training. But if you're asking patients to look at the patient information leaflet at the very end of the clinical, that's when you do need the naive patient perhaps. But I also have a little bit of an issue about us always talking about patients. There is not one person in this room who is not a patient. So it's people being involved in research. And I think we need to go a little bit beyond just in our own minds thinking about patients' involvement in in research, but making it a more social, as Simon said earlier, about getting into the communities, making it part and accessible for anybody of any age, any ethnicity, any whether they have a condition or not a condition, to participate in developing research of right across the board. So it's really more of a comment that from today, that's what I'm sort of taking away, is that we need these experts to be able to filter it all down in bite-sized pieces to the people that might just get involved in one small aspect of research as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, for me it's very simple. We are knocking on the door for years. We want to be. Nothing good if we are not involved. And now the door is open, and that is going to be complex. A lot of job has to be done, but we ask for this, and I think this is success that we are here and we are in the room. And what I've heard from you guys here is very encouraging, what you are saying, because you're representing so conservative, traditional, strong powerhouse, regulatories, boring, and everything like that, never change. And now you are sitting here and saying, yeah, we are changing. We would like to change. We would like to play with you. We would like to find new pathway. We would like to build bridges. We would like to open up the community. We would like to do this. I think this is great. So I would like to encourage all of you to hand over to the 4 people and thank them. And thank Kay for bringing this together. Thank you very much. So, no more question. And if there is anyone who wonder, what have I done today? Now Nikolai is going to tell you, all of us, in the final remarks, what we have done. Thank you. Aha, it's a coup.
Yes.
It's a coup.
I would like to take quickly the opportunity to use to show our flexibility in EUPATI. We have tried very hard to encourage many of you to help us with producing snapshots, a new way of communicating, an additional way to give us an opportunity to learn about the situation of EUPATI in your country. And we got 17 proposals. And we had a committee that tried very hard to find the best, because we wanted to give a prize to the best, and they miserably failed. They could not agree on the best one. So we came to the conclusion that I would like to ask all 17 who have provided a snapshot to us, and I would like to give you all a little thank you and a big applause for having supported us. So please come to me. Please, come up. Come on.